Hello and welcome to another episode of GoalTime, a show about interviewing ordinary people who've achieved extraordinary success. Tonight's guest, I hope you're half as inspired as I was. His name, Marc Stipo. I say it like that because I messed it up like 3 times. Marc, I met you at open mic. I see a guy up on the stage with a guitar, and then I was like, okay, wonder what he's going to sing. And then all of a sudden you came up with this story before you started playing. And it inspired me so much. Would you mind sharing that story with viewers?
Yeah, sure. When I got up on stage that night, it was the first time in about a year or maybe a year and a half that I got up on stage because I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And I was on some new medication that allowed me to kind of get back up on stage again.
It's unbelievable. It hit my heart so hard because one of my favorite people in the world, my wife's father, got Parkinson's disease at a very late stage in his life. And it was devastating for him and for the family. And it is not easy. And yet here you are, not giving up, refusing to not play your music. And you went on and played songs. And all of a sudden I saw the shaking stop, and I saw the life come into your body, and I saw the music pour out of your soul. And I truly wept that night, and I was so inspired I wanted to meet you afterwards.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to talk a little bit about Parkinson's disease after, and we're going to talk about how it affects you and how music might help you. But at first I want to talk to you about when we met after the show. It's like we knew each other forever.
Yeah.
And then you started telling me about the other adversities that you have faced along the way. This show is about ordinary people achieving extraordinary success. And when successful people succeed, you see the celebration. To remember that all of us have to go through the extreme highs, the extreme lows in life. Every one of us have to face adversity. And a lot of us give up. They say character isn't who you are in the absence of fear and adversity. It's who you are in the presence of fear and adversity. And when you started telling me your life story, I can't believe how many hurdles you've jumped over and overcome, and you just continue to live your life, man. True inspiration. Do you remember the first time that you were ever had to face adversity?
No, because I was technically not supposed to be born.
What?
So when my mom and had my sister, who was 18 months older than I am, she almost passed away. She almost bled out.
Oh.
And it was really difficult for my mom and dad. That's so they tell me. And they said, we're going to not go through this again. So next thing you know, I guess 9 months later, I was conceived, and they always say that I came out with the IUD in my hand, and I was meant for something. But even at that point, when my mom had me, she had some trials and tribulations, and when I was born premature, and we both made it through, thank God.
Wow. So you overcome that amazing obstacle right out of the gate, literally.
Right.
And now you start growing up, and the adversity isn't over. Now what was your next?
When I was getting out of college, I was in college my 4th year, and I never even knew these existed. I had very bad panic attacks, to the point where they almost crippled me. I went home for summer break, and I went in the house, and I didn't go outside for 3 months.
Really?
I didn't go outside, I didn't step outside.
Why? What was stopping you?
Fear of being afraid. It's the worst kind of fear you can possibly experience, because you don't know what you're afraid of. You're afraid of being afraid, and it compounds itself.
And did you have an answer for why it was happening, or did you?
Stress. I was struggling in college. I was kind of bullied a little bit through my younger years, and it just built up, and it just kind of, my world just collapsed.
Wow. So how did you deal with that? How did you get through that? How did you break through?
Well, at the time, back in the early 90s, they were not really up to date on what panic attacks were, not like they are now. There's so much help and so much support now. But back then, they just threw medication at you, and I didn't like being on a medication. I didn't like being out of control. So I guess we would call it out of pure will. I said, I don't want to live like this anymore. You know, I can't not live. It's not my choice. You know, I'm here for a reason. It's not my choice to say I'm done. So I don't have a choice. I got to go forward and move forward.
Wow. So I want to dive into this a little bit more, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay. There had to be a moment where you had to push yourself through and take that step outside the fear, out of doors, and back into the world. What was it that gave you that final push?
Believe it or not, it was just going outside and washing my car.
Really?
Just going outside and getting out and doing that one little task. And I went back in the house and I said, okay, I can do more. But it was that going outside the threshold. I could see it in my mind, going outside the front door with a bucket in my hand and say, I'm going to do this.
Wow.
And it wasn't one blast through it and I'm free. It was many of those challenges. But every one of those challenges that I took, I felt better about myself, and I felt better about myself, and I can do this, and I can do this.
Wow. And you not only overcame that and re-entered the world, but then you started to truly kick butt, right? You went into the business world?
Yeah, I started working for my father, who owned he owned a machine shop in our basement of our house. And when I mean a machine shop, I don't mean a hobby shop. I mean, there were 20 people in our basement.
Oh, wow.
From 7 in the morning till 11:30 at night. My whole life, you know, I met hundreds of people come and go. And it was an opportunity, thank God, that I had, that I could still kind of be in my little cocoon, but still kind of thrive, you know. And when I started working for my dad, I just found I was very good at it.
Wow. Excellent. So you now have a career started. You start to learn the craft.
Yeah.
So all is well. Adversity over.
Yeah, that's not how life works, though, is it?
What happened?
Well, so I started working for my father, and we actually moved the business out of the house into a small building. And I was really good at the machining world and I can see things in my head very, very clearly about how things work mechanically. It's my dad had the gift as well, and I could see how things work, and I picked up on it. So in the 1998, 1999, they were like, okay, you want to take over the business? Eventually, we're going to start grooming you as normal operations would. And at that point, I had met a woman, and I got married in 1999, and in October of 99, and then in November of 1999, my dad had a massive stroke.
Oh.
So it was, here you go, sink or swim, and that was it.
What do you mean? Like
They
taking over the business?
Taking over the business. Yeah, I had no clue about business. I didn't. And when I had to learn about business, I went to an accounting class and opened page one.
Wow.
And I went to a community school. I learned about accounting.
But you kept going.
Oh, absolutely.
And it doesn't sound like failure was an option, and you just figured out how to get it done.
You know, it's funny. We used to have two signs in our shop, and one sign was from Apollo 13. It says "Failure is not an option."
My wife's favorite movie.
Right, and the other sign we had was "Produce or Die."
Produce or die.
You know, believe it or not, though,
That's good for a manufacturing company.
yeah, but it's stressful. It's stressful when you're struggling, and when I started taking over that business, it was like flying a plane and going down. The beginning of the month, you start going down, and then you pull out, and you made it, right? And you come back up again, and then you start going down again. And every month, how are we going to, or we did it last month, how are we going to do it this month? And it was extremely stressful. It was extremely stressful.
While learning the business,
Yeah.
while having employees, while still mastering your craft,
Yeah,
sales.
yeah. Sales, quoting, purchasing, inspection. I wrote a quality manual I've had no idea. I wrote a big scientific quality manual with a consultant.
That's, and what were some of the fun products that you guys created? I know that there was.
Well, one product I used to, I'm really, it's my claim to fame is I used to do work for the WWE.
Oh, nice.
You know, I used to, they would make their title belts that they would have for the champions. But if you ever watch the WWE, they have these side plates, all right? So the belt itself is generic, you know, and then when the champion wins, he gets his own custom side plates put on it.
Mm-hmm.
And they would use this as promotional items. They would give them to all the respective sports teams, baseball, football,
Oh, very cool.
basketball, when they won their respective
I think
championships.
I've seen that, like athletes from other sports holding up a belt, a championship.
Oh, sure. I have pictures of some people that held up the belt that I made. But I fell into it. I was doing a job for a friend of mine, and he said he needed something made, and I'm like, I don't know how to do this. I'm going to reach out to some people I know and
Just figure it out.
Just figure it out. And it turns out I fell in the lap of Orange County Choppers.
What?
Yeah. So they had a water jet machine that they would cut out plates with, the reason I got in with them is because the vendor that was selling them their machines sold me my machine. So it was kind of like it was a connection. So he introduced me, and to make a long story short, they did the job for me, but the guy I was contacted with was terminated from their company.
Oh, wow.
Not too soon after I met him, and he called me up a few days later, and he said, I need help. And I said, what do you need help with? He goes, I'm actually contracted with the WWE to make and I have a contract to make these side plates
Wow.
for a match that's coming up in a week and a half. And I said, well, he goes, do you have some machine time I can use? I said, when do you want to come over? He goes, how about right now?
Wow.
I said, sure. Mm-hmm. And he came over, and we did it, and he was happy, and I shook his hand, and I'm like, anytime I can help.
That's fantastic.
And then about a week later, I got a call from the WWE themselves, and they brought me on board.
Oh my gosh, that's so much fun. Jimmy Snooker was my guy.
Oh yeah.
So I'm a product of the '80s. So in my name,
Superfly?
my name Jim.
Yeah.
So Jimmy Superfly Snooker. I used
Yeah.
to be on my diving board, and I put an inner tube about 10 feet out, and I would dive and do my
the
Jimmy
thing,
Snooker on the inner tube.
So it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I got to meet a lot of nice people up there. I did their promotional belts. I actually made one for the Cubs when they won their first World Series in 2016.
Nice, excellent.
And then rumors that it's in Wrigley Field,
really?
in their Hall of Fame.
Oh, very cool.
I did one for the Patriots in 2016, and
Nice.
I have pictures of Gronkowski holding up the belt, and it was fun.
Oh, yeah, we'll have to have that picture. Maybe we can show it.
Sure,
Yeah, absolutely,
sure,
that's awesome.
It was a lot of fun. There's some good stories.
All right, so good times. Adversity over.
Yeah.
Smooth sailing from here, right?
No, life does not happen that way.
It does not.
At least it doesn't happen that way for me. It ebbs and flows.
Everyone has a story.
Yeah.
Everyone has to face and overcome adversity and obstacles, without a doubt. But you certainly have more than your fair share, for sure.
Yeah, it was funny when I actually once was going to a therapist, and I said, do you meet a lot of people that go through this? He goes, you've got more than most. But I didn't know any different. I didn't know any different. So
what happened next in the world of Marc Stipo?
Well, I got married a second time in 2004, and then I had twin boys in 2006.
Sweet.
All right, and things were going along, and then in 2016, like any family business, a lot of family business end up this way. Money becomes the root of all evil, and we through
things happen.
Some trying times, we just went our separate ways.
Yep, things happen. Absolutely. Now, around this time was the time that you were
so
diagnosed
2011, I was
with
diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And I used to take a martial art called Aikido, and I don't think I've told you about this one. I was ready to get my black belt in Aikido. I had been taking it since 1999. It was when I was going through that first adversity. It really helped me through it all. It really helped me through it all. And then in 2011, I was getting ready to take my black belt, but my leg would collapse out from under me. I would try and do moves, and boom, I'd fall on the mat. I'm like, what's going on? And then I went to the doctor, and I went to a neurologist, and they said, you have Parkinson's disease. And I said, what? You know, did you ever see? You remember the Candid Camera?
Yeah, of course.
Like Alan Funt.
Alan Funt.
I was waiting for Alan Funt
Oh no.
to
Yeah.
go because I'm like, am I on Candid Camera?
This is not real.
It's not real. You can't wrap your head around it. You know. And it started out with some tremors in my hands, and then it got progressively worse. Well, most people think Parkinson's is just tremoring. It's much more than that. For myself, there's this condition known as dystonia, where your muscles are firing so tight you lock up. You just lock, you know, and I have to constantly stretch and stretch my legs and stretch my back. I wake up, I'm in knots, you know. But that's the cards that I was dealt.
But you keep going.
You have to.
But not everyone does, Mark. So what was it about you? What is it about you that makes you keep going? Where's that drive come from?
The drive, it comes from my family had been through adversity, a lot of adversity. And I made a deal with God a long time ago that my life was not my own to take. You know, no matter how I felt, it was not my own. You know, it wasn't up to me. I know I was given this gift of life, you know, and believe me, I made some mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes, but going down the road, it's not mine to take. It's not mine to choose whether I live or die. It's not up to me.
Wow, that's
You know?
that's a beautiful way of thinking.
You have
and
to.
we've all made mistakes.
Absolutely.
It's called being human.
Yeah, regrets. I have 1,000 regrets. You know, thousands of regrets. There's thousands of apologies.
So when you're faced with this adversity, and you're standing in the fork in the road, where you can either give in and be a victim, or you can take it on.
Right.
What do you say to yourself?
Bring it. Bring it on.
Say it again.
Bring it on.
Bring it on.
Yeah, you have to. You have to look at life, because life's going to throw anything it has at you. Life's going to throw anything it has at you, everything, and you go, bring it on. You know. Listen, there's been times I've been in the fetal position, just crying and not knowing what's going to happen. But there's just some little voice that says, "Hey, just bring it."
Man.
You know, you'll get through it.
Yeah.
You will.
I told you you'd be inspired tonight. This guy's amazing.
You'll get through it. You know.
Yeah.
And life has a way of. I think we spoke about where your mind goes, the energy goes.
Yeah, Tony Robbins has a great
Yeah.
quote. I really like it. It's where your focus goes, your energy flows. So if you're thinking about all the negative things in the world, all the darkness, all the ugliness, if your focus goes there, your energy will go there.
Right.
And if you focus on the positive, the beauty, the great things,
Right.
the opportunity that still exists, this
Absolutely.
world is still miraculous and there's a lot of beautiful things still
Yeah,
in it.
it's not
You
easy.
focus on that, you put your energy there,
Yeah.
that's what your life will be filled with.
Exactly right.
But man, I mean, you faced it over and over and over again, and I'm just so inspired by it. You also told me about a story about Eddie Van Halen.
Eddie Van Halen, yeah. So Eddie Van Halen was my all-time favorite musician, because if you read about him, if you listen to his stories, he was all about music, and
Yeah.
his here's a
He's the
YouTube
best.
video. Here's a YouTube video out there and says, Eddie Van Halen here, keep playing, man. Got to keep playing. That's all there is. Keep moving forward. And he goes, if you don't, I'm coming after you. This is obviously before he passed away. But he's right. You got to keep playing. No matter what metaphor you're going to use, you have to keep going forward.
Yeah.
No matter what life throws at you.
It's awesome spirit. It's great philosophy. Do you mind if I ask you a couple more questions
Sure.
about Parkinson's disease?
Sure.
Hopefully, with hope that other people will learn from this as well. And
Well, here's the one thing about Parkinson's I'll
Yep.
tell you that I have, right?
Sure.
It's something I was dealt, all right? So I try to make light of it. I really try. And anybody ever says to me, how you doing? I say, well, I have Parkinson's, but I make a hell of a shaken martini.
Yeah,
know?
they say that's when you're truly well,
Right.
is when you can humor about it.
You have to.
Yes.
You have
That's
to.
amazing.
So feel free to ask whatever you want.
Yeah, sure. How does Parkinson's negatively impact your ability to play music? And how does music help you with your Parkinson's?
It negatively affects me when I went to the open mic when I was playing when I got a new medication. The problem is I was really wanted to play and it was great, but I never took into account the adrenaline. So the adrenaline really exacerbates the condition. So now I'm all excited and everything. Next thing you know, I'm tremoring. I'm like, oh no. I do this a lot. You'll see me do that a lot, try to shake it out.
Sure.
But that's where it negatively, and sometimes it just comes out of nowhere. Sometimes I'll be ready to play on stage and I'll tremor and I'm like, I can't, But how it really positively affects me is it keeps me in the moment. When I really, like when you said you saw me playing and the tremors went away.
Yeah.
When you're truly in that moment and you're feeling every note and you're listening to the music that's coming out, you lose yourself in it. And it really sends you to kind of another dimension. And
It must be so peaceful for you.
It takes a while to get there. Sometimes I'll be struggling and I'll have some issues with my tremors or whatnot. I'll be in a negative mind space, but I just start playing, and I put headphones on and I listen, and as I'm playing, I start to flow, and when I lose myself, that's when I find myself.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So I used to love to play like Eddie Van Halen, but now I can't. So I learned. I've learned
You're
that.
lucky if you could ever play like Eddie.
No, nobody can. But I used to think, man, all those fast notes and everything was really awesome.
Right.
But now it's gotten to the point where it's more about quality of notes, not quantity. And the other thing too is, music is not just notes; it's the absence of notes as well.
Explain.
So it's sound and absence of sound. What makes it like a wave, what makes it ebb and flow. So you'll be hearing I'll play a note or something like that, or I'll bend it real high, and people are like, "Where's he gonna go?" And I won't go anywhere, just for a split second, and then I'll go somewhere else, I'll flow into something else.
That's fascinating.
So I don't like to preempt the music. I just kind of like to let it flow.
Sometimes less is better.
Less is more. A lot of times, less is more. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. So as I mentioned, you can see Marc and his friends at the Prescott Community Center at open mic nights on most times. I can't always commit that he's always going to be there.
Yeah. Well,
But
here's the
what are
thing.
you working on now?
I'm actually working on a song called "The Message," and it's a song that hits close to home. It's about being accepted and loved, no matter what.
Oh.
No matter what, no matter your situation in life, whether you have money or not money, whether whatever life is thrown at you, whatever you decided to take life as.
So is it being accepted by others or you accepting yourself?
Both.
Really?
Yeah, it's both.
I think that is so needed today with everything going on in the world.
I mean,
people are really struggling to find their true authenticity.
Absolutely. If you got gay, LGBTQ, I'm not exactly sure if that's right, but they're going through a lot of changes in their lives, and they don't know where to go, and they want to know that people still love and accept them no matter what.
And it's so much more than that, whether it's sexual orientation or whether it's gender or whether it's generation or whether it's an economic situation. And I've had my own adversity in my life, and I think all of us have scars. All of us have adversity. All of us have obstacles. So I think a lot of people are going to be able to connect and relate to your song. I'd love to hear it sometime.
Well, I hope so. Well, hopefully we'll get to play a little bit for you.
Tonight?
Sure, why not?
Really?
Yeah.
I'm up for it.
All right, sounds good.
I hope you want to hear some music tonight. This is great. I look forward to that very much.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Have fun.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Felt the buzz, the screen lit bright. Your words appeared late that night. A quiet moment so profound. The truth you carry finally found. I've been hiding for so long. You said, but this is me. where I belong. I stared at the screen, my heart in my hands. Somehow I knew someday I'd understand. In the words you typed, I saw your glow, a strength so pure I had to know. You're not someone else, not someone new. You're just showing the world the real you. Through the lines you wrote, the truth was sent. And I love you for the message that you meant. The message that you meant.
Wow, bravo. Unbelievable, you guys. Thank you so much. I told you you'd be inspired tonight. Thank you, Alec and Chris, for coming. If you want to see more of these guys, you can probably catch them at the Prescott Community Center during the open mic nights. Marc, want to thank you. You're a true inspiration through your music, your words, your song. You're going to connect with so many people are going to connect with this song. I always end GoalTime with a phrase, and I think the phrase I'd like to use tonight is the 3 lines from the song that talks about being the real you. What was that, Marc?
It's called You're Not Someone Else, You're Not Someone New, You're Just Showing the World the Real You.
I mean, come on, right? Unbelievable. Thank you so much. We'll see you again on GoalTime.